Alright, let's be honest. We've all been there where we tell ourselves we're going to stop biting our nails or maybe cut back on our screen time. Maybe you even succeed at this for a little while and then boom, you're not biting your nails anymore, but you now started chewing the inside of your cheek. Like, that's such a weird thing. Like, how does that come about? Why do we keep swapping one bad habit for another instead of just kicking the habit altogether? Well, that's what we're going to talk about today. And spoilers, the habit is just a symptom of something deeper. There's a deeper root cause at play. And if you don't dig that sucker up, trust me, it'll come back in another form. And I know, because that nail biting to cheek chewing example earlier, that was me when I was stressed out in college. So let's get into this video. First up on the list, we got mindfulness and meditation. Now, I know everyone talks about this, everyone says they should do it, but no one actually sits down and puts it into practice. It's like the broccoli of the self-help world. But here's why it works. It helps you get in touch with the thoughts that are going through your head and familiarize yourself with those feelings. Habits like constantly checking your phone or binge watching TV are ways to escape the uncomfortable feelings we sometimes have. Mindfulness makes you aware of those feelings, and once you're aware of them, we can start addressing them. Imagine this, you're about to mindlessly scroll through Instagram, or in my case, load up chess.com and play a couple of rounds. And in that split second it takes for the page to load, you wonder, is this what I want to be doing? You pause, take 2 deep breaths in and out, and suddenly you realize, oh man, I'm just mentally tired. Like, I'm mentally dead. I don't actually want to scroll through my phone. I just want some way to relax. And just like that, you caught the root of the habit. Next, let's talk about journaling. It's like a conversation you have with yourself, but way less awkward than talking to yourself in public. When you write things down and start to work things out, you'll notice patterns in your behavior. Like for me, every time I had a big project due that made me stay up way past when I wanted to get to bed, I would wind up just eating tons of fruit. And while you might not be thinking, well, that's not the worst habit, it is when you're on the keto diet. And by the way, if you're stress eating potato chips while writing in your journal about stress eating, that's okay. I can't say that I've personally been there, but the first key and the first step is to recognize these habits so that you become consciously aware of them and then can take actions to fix them later down the road. Now for some brainy stuff. We're going to talk about CBT, Cognitive Behavior Therapy, as the pros call it. This is basically rewiring your brain to think in healthier ways. Think about it like this. Every time you engage in a habit, there's a thought driving it, even if you're not totally aware of what that thought is. With CBT, you learn to challenge that thought and to retake control of your brain. For me, an example of this was when I was quitting smoking. I wasn't aware of what my triggers were, what thoughts were going through my head, but once I started noticing them, I could replace them. And every time I got the impulse to smoke, I replaced it with the thought, no, that's silly, I'm happy to be free. And through repeating that like a mantra every single time, eventually I got to the point where I wasn't actually even like having impulses to smoke, but I would still have the thought going, no, I'm happy to be free. Because I would just cut it off right at the source. And that's what you have to do. You can't entertain the thought. You can't let the thought necessarily play out in your head. You have to, the moment you notice it, cut it off and say something like, no, I'm happy to be free, or replace it with a better habit, such as the example from earlier, me going online and playing chess. I can notice that that behavior isn't due to actually wanting to play chess, but just because I want to relax. So instead of relaxing with my phone, I could put on an audiobook and listen to that, or even better, I can just sit there and meditate for a minute, which accomplishes the same end goal of relaxation. Here's another example. Say you're working late one day and you get the thought, I deserve to check TikTok, and just take a quick little break on there. Next thing you know, you're stuck in a black hole of cat videos and funny dance compilations. CBT helps you recognize that thought or that impulse and replace it with something more beneficial. Take the TikTok example. You're going to replace that thought with, I deserve to take a 5-minute walk. Your brain still gets the reward, but without the endless scrolling. And trust me, just because your body's not actually moving doesn't mean you're resting. Your phone, hyper-stimulating. To your mind, that is. So while you might be highly fatigued, you're not actually recovering. You're just highly stimulating your brain while resting your body, and your brain's going to wind up even more fatigued and worse off after all. Another tip is to develop healthier substitutes. Instead of biting your nails or chewing the inside of your cheek, you'd find something like a chapstick that you can just play with, or a fidget toy. While not ideal because you're not addressing the root cause of the behavior, starting out by just switching to a healthier thing can help you, and then down the road allow you to address the behavior when you have time or when you're prepared to. Now, some people recommend using gradual exposure as a method to treat this. This is where you slowly wean yourself off the habit by sitting down and allowing for the discomfort to exist. People doing this method will start by putting down their phone for 5 minutes when they feel the urge to scroll. Then 10 minutes, then 20. But the main thing you need to watch out for is it can build the belief in your head and reinforce the belief in your head that you actually need that thing. And I have a whole video talking about this, but to summarize, you basically, as this applies to smoking, which is what I can talk about best, you create this feeling of loss, like you're missing out on it. And this is actually responsible for the majority of side effects people feel while quitting smoking. The actual process of quitting the chemical dependency on nicotine is extremely easy. If you want to learn more about this, I highly recommend the book, The Easy Way by Alan Carr. How I recommend doing this is to substitute more fun ways and more things that you enjoy doing into your activities and into your daily schedule. This way you can better regulate your own dopamine levels, and eventually you'll be able to switch off to that other activity versus on just cutting back on it originally. Speaking of taking things slow, don't forget to manage your stress in a healthy way. Breathing exercises or long walks without your phone are two of the most beneficial ways I found of doing this. Habits like overeating, nail biting, and doom scrolling are often used for coping mechanisms for anxiety and stress. So if you handle the stress, the habits start to fade away. And I personally believe anxiety exists to show you where to look. For example, the first week of school, you often feel anxious because you haven't really gone online, you haven't checked what your classes schedules look like, you haven't seen what books you need to buy or what homework assignments are due. So making a list of all of this stuff can often relieve that anxiety because you now know what you should be doing, versus when you don't know what you should be doing, but you know there is stuff you should be doing. That is a recipe for anxiety. And lastly, I want to emphasize self-compassion. We're all human here. Sometimes you'll fall back into old habits, and that's okay. Beating yourself up over falling into bad habits or old habits just creates more stress, which further exacerbates the habits that you're trying to stop. Instead, be kind to yourself. One of the best quotes I heard was, talk to yourself the way you would talk to a 5-year-old, and look at how you talk to yourself. It's not like flipping a switch. It's going to take work. Whether you choose to use mindfulness, meditation, breathing exercises, or long walks, just remember, the habit is only the surface. You have to dig deeper and address the root causes if you want to fix it, or else it's just going to manifest itself in another way. One quick note I wanted to add is some of these habits can be due to poor brain function and poor metabolic state, which can be addressed through increasing your physical activity, eating healthier foods, and making sure you get proper electrolytes. So you can get blood tests done to check your salt levels, check your magnesium levels. If you're feeling stressed out a lot, you might consider taking a supplement like magnesium glycinate, which is also in sleep minerals, which I'll link down below. Increasing your metabolism is a great way, and sometimes by addressing these issues on the health side, you can solve them without necessarily having to address them directly. Now, if you like this video, hit that like button, make sure to subscribe to the channel, and comment down below how you quit one of your habits. What was the root cause that you had to figure out in order to actually quit? And peace out.